Hey, what's going on, guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. Thanks for joining me today. It's Q&A time, and I'm excited to be doing this Q&A in front of my new gear storage system here in my garage. And the reason I'm excited about it is very often with these Q&A videos, there's a lot of questions about different gear items, and so I can use the gear that I have access to help answer the questions and hopefully show things a little bit more than just me sitting here talking to you about different pieces of gear. Now, before we jump into the Q&A, I do want to showcase and just show you some new bags that I got from a fellow YouTube friend of mine, Ben with Hilltop Packs. Sent these bags to me. Look at these. This has my logo on it. Like, he printed my logo onto a Dyneema food bag and to a little ditty bag. This is so cool. I mean, I figured that this like kind of technology existed, but how awesome is that? My logo on a Dyneema stuff bag. That's really cool. So thanks, Ben, from Hilltop Packs for sending me this. He does all different kinds of designs and printable things on Dyneema products, and so his website is down in the description, so make sure you check that out. But let's go ahead and jump into the Q&A. What's the best setup for winter backpacking that isn't hammock based? Now, that's a good question for me to answer because I don't consider myself a hammock camper. I do have a hammock setup, but I don't really use it that much anymore. So I want to show you two different products that I would suggest for a backpacking winter shelter. So what I've got here is a single wall, 4-season style shelter. This is the Black Diamond Highlight Tent. Yes, this is a single wall shelter, and it's gonna be what I would suggest for anybody that is gonna be doing 4-season backpacking. Or another option is to go with Luxe hiking gear and get a teepee style shelter. This is the Hex Peak XL, and I suggest this because these perform really well in winter conditions. And if you recently watched my last video, or one of my last videos, the Hex Peak from Luxe Hiking Gear review, then this should look familiar, and you can see just how well these teepees function in a winter type of setting. Now, some things to consider when it comes to a winter backpacking shelter, which I know the question wasn't specifically about shelters, it's an entire setup, but like what I've got up here is at least a 20-degree or a 0-degree sleeping bag, and synthetic sleeping bags are also a really good option for a winter setup as well. So make sure that with your big three, you've got just a shelter system that is designed for 4-season use. So if it's not necessarily a single wall shelter like this Black Diamond Highlight, then I would suggest something that on the inner tent, you've got way less mesh that allows for the fabric to capture and hold in the heat of your body and everything inside of the tent, more so than if you had just a bunch of bug mesh, like no-see mesh on the tent. So there's other options out there. Nemo has different shelters, Marmot, and gosh, there's a lot of different options out there. This doesn't have to be the only option. And Luxe Hiking Gear, the Hex Peak XL, or their other types of shelters don't have to be the only option either. The other thing that you want to do and make sure is that you've got a good sleeping pad. So you've got a good shelter, a good low-degree sleeping bag that's going to keep you nice and warm, but you have to pair it with a sleeping pad that is going to insulate you from the cold ground and not allow for all of your body heat to be sucked out from you from behind. So that's what I would say would make for the best type of winter system. I'll probably make a video on this just so that there's a little bit more explanation behind it to help you make a better decision on what kinds of options are out there. What kind of navigation system do you use and why? Now, I primarily use my cell phone and the Topo Maps Plus or Gaia GPS apps for my GPS system. I feel like phones and GPS technology has advanced to the point that it is not something that shouldn't be able to be relied on. And in fact, going out on weekend trips or even a through hike or a section hike, if you're doing long distance, you're able to charge your phone in between resupplies and that kind of thing when you're in between towns or whatever it is. I've never had a reason to not rely on my phone. Should that mean that you should never carry paper maps? No, and I do feel like you should carry paper maps, but primarily my cell phone is what I use to do all of the navigation that I now do on my trips. In fact, Topo Maps Plus, I pay for the Pro version, and I'm able to import map GPX files from CalTopo straight into either Gaia or Topo Maps Plus and just get all of the information that I need, especially if other people have uploaded GPX routes, then I can just import those straight in, and it's really seamless. It's a great system, but I do feel like paper maps are necessary to carry as well. So make sure that you have education on that too, because I feel like that is important. If you could buy one lightweight backpacking backpack, what would it be? The one pack that I've been using most recently is the Osprey Levity 45. And is this my go-to backpack? I wouldn't necessarily say so, but this has been the pack that I most recently purchased, and I would recommend it. It's been able to carry the weight loads that I've put in it up to 30 pounds pretty comfortably. It's been really nice, but what I really should show you, hold that thought. So to be honest, if I was to say one lightweight backpack that you should absolutely consider is the Through Series pack from Waymark Gear, this thing has easily been one of the best products that I have carried in the backcountry. I absolutely love this pack. And so if you are able to carry weights of under 25 pounds on a regular basis as a total gear loadout, this is what I would consider. Yes, it's an investment, and I paid just over $300 for this pack, but this has been a better pack, a better system for me. Definitely recommend this as a go-to for a lightweight backpack. Planning on going hiking overnight, stay around the Tahoe Rim Trail. That sounds awesome. That's a trail I'd love to do. But around the Tahoe Rim Trail this winter, hopefully in the snow, will be my first cold trip. Hammock camper, I have a Hammock Gear 20-degree underquilt and a Hammock Gear 30-degree top quilt. Would you recommend getting the winter cover or a sock like Dutchwear? Okay, so it's kind of a loaded question, but what I get is being asked is how can you just be more comfortable and warmer for winter hammock camping? And what I would say is more layers would definitely help if you're not wanting to invest into lower temperature gear items for an underquilt or a top quilt. That may not be something that's available for you too financially, but that would be a recommendation, is just get a lower degree rated top quilt and underquilt. But if that's not the case, then going with, and I don't have a lot of experience with this, so I can't give a lot of information on hammock camping. There's a ton of different channels out there that you could check out. Spaguyver Backpacking would be one that would be a great resource for winter hammock camping to better understand how to get a good winter setup for hammock camping. But I feel like getting the tarp system that has the doors truly will help capture more heat and just be able to prevent cold air from the wind and stuff blowing through and removing that heat from your body and from your sleep system. So that would be my suggestion, but I would definitely go check out Spaguyver's channel. I'll put his link down in the description as well and see what information he's got, and you might even send him an email to get better information on a hammock system with something that I'm not as familiar with, and I don't want to give you bad information just to answer a question. Which bag would you choose between the Sierra Designs 800 Cloud 20-degree and the UGQ 20-degree that you recently reviewed? So Doug, what I've got here is the 20-degree Bandit from UGQ, and I have to be 100% honest. This quilt has easily become my favorite piece of sleeping gear as of late. For 2019, it is in the top 5 best pieces of gear that I have used in the backcountry. And so if you are open to supporting a cottage company, a family business, and that kind of setting, then this would be what I would suggest 100%. Now, there are some downsides to using a quilt, and depending on what kind of conditions you might find yourself in or where you're going to be backpacking, the Sierra Designs may be a better option for you. If the downsides of using a quilt and having patch straps and all of the aspects of not having a hood and whatever it is, then a quilt may not be the way to go. I really do love the pad sleeve on the Sierra Designs Cloud 800. That's a fantastic bag. I love the ability to slide my feet. I've got it up here, but I'm not gonna pull it out. I'd love the ability to pull and slide my feet out through the foot box and vent that way. So if I was to only choose one of the products, the Bandit, hands down for sure. Just amazing quality. I have had some of the seams on my Cloud start to peel apart, and so I had to put like tenacious tape on it because I haven't taken the chance or the time to be able to sew those closed. But this would be my suggestion, hands down, all the time. How do you go about organizing all your smaller things in a world where most backpacks don't have many pockets? Joe, I know that this has been a struggle for you as of late, and so let's take a few minutes here to answer this and help you out. In a pack like this, that is designed to be very minimal and very simple, does not lend itself to a lot of pockets. So what I primarily do is I like to use all of these different types of storage bag options that are zipper style bags that make it really easy for me to get in and see all of the items on the inside. Now, the reason that I like to use bags like this is I can have a bag for my first aid kit, I can have a bag for toiletries, I can have a bag for like a hygiene kit or poop kit, and then like for my electronics, and then I can strategically place those inside of my pack in different locations to have better access to them. So for example, I will put a like water filtration kit or a hygiene kit, like a poop trowel and toilet paper and stuff on the outside pocket, and then maybe electronics like extra batteries or my satellite device, that kind of stuff, my battery charger for my phone, I can put in a bag so it's organized, but then it's inside of my pack and I know exactly where it is to be found. The other thing that I like is to have them all different colors. So by having them different colors, they're organized a little bit differently, and I'm able to go, yep, boom, that is my toiletry kit, boom, that is my first aid kit, and it makes it really easy to grab and go and pull those things out as needed. So bags really are the lifesaver, and they don't add that much additional weight. I understand the frustration of not having it there on your pack to be able to organize all of that, but packs are just changing, and that's not necessarily quite as available with pack systems now, and so going with little ditty bags, even like little roll top bags like this, are going to be a good option to keep yourself nice and organized. What one-man ultralight backpacking tent should I buy? Love, Haggard. Oh, Haggard, you're such a sweetheart. And I don't really know how to answer this question, to be quite honest, because I feel like telling somebody you should buy this product is not really the way to go. But if I could give some recommendations, I think if you're looking for a budget option, then the Lanshan from 3FUL or from Meyer, just on Amazon or AliExpress. This is a high quality, good, super lightweight option for you to look at. But there are other options out there, and it just depends really what you're looking for. So another good option, something that I've been testing and checking out most recently, and I know, Haggard, you already have the Zion 2-person, but this is the Paria Outdoor Products Zion 1-person tent. So this is a good way to go into not necessarily an ultralight tent, but a lightweight option that is less than $200. And it's a one-person shelter that doesn't take up a lot of space, but this also has 2 doors, 2 vestibules. But I mean, there's plenty of other options. There's things like this Xped Mira 1 or the Lux Hiking Gear Hex Peak or the Lux Hiking Gear Mini Peak, or you can go into some of the Dyneema products and get something like the Z-Pax Duplex or the 6 Moon Designs Lunar Solo. There's a lot of different options. Any of those are going to be great. The Tiger Wall from Big Agnes. It really just depends on your budget. So you and I might need to have a discussion separately to be able to know exactly how much you're wanting to spend and then figure out what makes the most sense for what you're looking for. What's your favorite outdoor movie, book, or podcast? How do you feed that need for the outdoors when you can't be, well, outdoors? Happy trails. So Troy, there's a couple answers that I've got here. One of my all-time favorite movies that is outdoor focused is A River Runs Through It. That movie is nostalgic for me, and Brad Pitt as like young Brad Pitt and the fishing is a fantastic story, and I love that movie, and is really nostalgic because I grew up watching that movie and then like just having this like internal really strong desire to go catch like a big fish. And so that would be one of my favorite movies that's outdoor focused. There are 2 books that are my favorite outdoor books. And one of them is not necessarily like a story. It's just more of like presenting an idea. And that is a book called Last Child in the Woods. And it really influenced a lot of how I decided or wanted to then be a parent to young kids. And I've got 2 kids of my own, and it really has influenced how I want to make sure that I am instilling the outdoor environment and opportunities for my kids. So that would be a recommendation if you're not familiar with that book to definitely check that out. The second book that I absolutely love, and this is, I mean, there are so many good books out there, but Desert Solitaire. I love Ed Abbey. I love his writing, and I just think his story and all of the inspiration that he provides is pretty amazing. Desert Solitaire is a fantastic book. And as far as like how I feed the need of wanting to be outdoors all the time, honestly, YouTube and talking about backpacking and talking about being outside really is a great way for me to just satisfy my desire and need to be outside all the time. So Roland asks, hi, I walked the wet and rocky path of the West Highland Way on my Merrell MQM Flex Gore-Tex, but I'm looking for a pair of Innovate shoes for the next trail. What features do you look for in shoes for those types of conditions? Now, I'm not totally familiar with the trail that you were talking about, but as far as like the features that I look for in a shoe is really around how the shoe fits my foot. To me, it doesn't matter at all what footwear you put on your foot, as long as it fits your foot well and your foot is broken into the shoe, then you can go and hike and have a great time. For example, I took my wife several weeks ago to do Utah's highest peak, Kings Peak, and she did that trail, which was 28 miles of total hiking, in just like Nike running shoes. I take students out all the time I have a student just this last semester that I taught that was wearing Vans, and it worked, no blisters, and was comfortable. So the biggest thing that I look for is, does the shoe fit my foot? And then does it give me the traction and stability on the trail that I'm looking for? If I know that I'm going to be doing trails that are very rocky, then I want to have a shoe that is going to support being in that environment for a long period of time. So for example, the shoe that I love for an outdoor trail shoe is the La Sportiva Bushido. And the reason I like that is it has a rock plate through the midsole that really protects the foot from when you step onto those sharp rocks, you're not pushing those rocks right through into the arch of your foot or the ball of your foot. And so those are the kinds of things that I look for. But when you go and start trying on a shoe, make sure that it fits good. And even like if you go to REI, for example, see if you can't put the shoe on and then even put a pack on and go like walk around the store for a few minutes. Really will make a difference in making a decision on whether or not the shoe is good for your foot. Kyle asks, what brand was the jacket you wore for Q&A number 3? It looks pretty sweet. So Kyle, the jacket that I wore in that video is the First Light Sawtooth jacket. First Light is a hunting brand, and the First Light is kind of like a hybrid jacket that has insulation on the front side, and then the back side of the jacket is not insulated, with the idea and the intent that I'm going to be using it while wearing a pack, pretty active, but also in colder weather type of conditions. And so it really is a fantastic jacket, and I would absolutely recommend it. So the next question is kind of a repeat to Joe's question about organization, but do you have a Possibles pouch? I use the Granite Gear Air Zip Ditty pouches. And yeah, I use all different types of zipper type bags or roll top bags for how I organize my gear and put all of like my possible stuff in there. And just really stuff like this is how I organize all of my small items. And so that would be what I would consider my Possibles pouch. What do you do for work, and how have you managed the channel as it has grown? We are all mostly weekend backpackers, so my question is mostly about what kind of work do you do and how does it fit with your backpacking lifestyle? Mike, that's a great question. And so what I do as a full-time job is I manage an indoor rock climbing facility here in Salt Lake City. And as the general manager, I have a little bit more flexibility of when I'm able to go and do things. And as long as I get my hours in, it's really flexible, and it has been one of the best benefits of where I work. I absolutely love the job that I have. I work in the outdoor industry. I'm around the climbing community every day. And so it really has just been a great way for me to be able to go out on as many trips as I do and spend as much time in the backcountry, because that's what the job is focused on. We're focused on providing recreational opportunities. And so, yeah, I found a job that supports my desire and my passions. And as long as I get my work done and I am able to take care of the employees that I manage, then me getting out on trips is not a difficult thing for me to do. The next question is, what's the longest winter backpacking trip you have ever done? And to be honest, a weekend, 3 days. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I don't really love being out in the winter for much longer than that, because it's hard to pack enough food and have all of your warm stuff for a long period of time without having like an 80-liter pack. You've got to have a lot of stuff to be able to stay that warm for that long of a time. But I'm hoping to do much longer trips now that I am into this hot tenting scene where I've got a wood stove inside of my tent. I've got some bigger tents available to me now. And so, 4 or 5 days to a week is not out of the question, because having a fire inside of the teepee, inside of the tent, really is just a huge bonus and a huge benefit, and will make getting out in the winter a lot easier. Now the next question comes from Aid. How to overcome the feeling of longing with family when going on an adventure. Sometimes I find it very hard to walk, leaving family, to start my journey to nature. That's a good question, and I feel like it's something that you have to be able to figure out and find for yourself how you are able to manage that. And what I focus on really heavy is that I prioritize getting out into the backcountry with my family first. And once I have been able to spend time with my family in the backcountry, it's easier for me to go on personal trips, because I don't feel guilty being out, because I'm not leaving behind experiences that my kids and my wife are able to have, because I have prioritized being able to go out with them and making sure that as a family we're having those experiences. And even at home, I make sure that I spend time with the family, but it's also something that I feel like is really important as a person is your partner and your family should be able to support you and tell you, yeah, go spend some time in the backcountry. It'll be good for you, and when you come back, we're gonna be that much better because you've had a reset, and we've all had a reset, and then life is just good. At least that's how it is with my family, but hopefully that gives you some tips or tricks or ideas of how you might approach things differently if you're not already doing that. How's the X-Pack material holding up long-term on your pack? Which he would be referring to my Waymark pack, which I'll show you here. Thinking about a Waymark pack, but not much for long-term reviews or anything. Now what I can say, Mick, is that a lot of the packs that Waymark has had out on the various through hike trails like the PCT or the AT or even the CDT are coming back in really good condition. The Whimsical Woman, check out her channel because she did the entire PCT with one of Waymark packs, through series packs, or maybe it was a light pack, the light series packs, but the X-Pack material holds up incredibly well. So on the bottom of the packs, at least for the edition that I have, there is a VX21 material on the bottom and then VX07 in different areas. But this material is very, very resistant to abrasion, and it just holds up really well. The biggest issue that I've had, which I've got my first Waymark pack up here, but the biggest issue I had is that just rubbing against like trees and rocks here in the corners on my side pockets is where I've had the most wear and tear on the pack. Otherwise, like, it really is just holding up super well, and I have no complaints about any of the seams like pulling apart or poor stitching. Like, this would be an absolute solid, just winning decision for you to invest into getting a Waymark pack. You'd be super happy with it. Juliet Rose asks, I'd love more info on summer backpacking and gear picks. I live in Australia, jealous, and most of our long hikes are recommended to be done over winter. Our spring/autumn is more like your summer. So I hear all the time about how to stay warm and insulated, but no information about keeping cool during the hotter times. I'd love a quick advice segment on that. Whew, yeah, that definitely is something that I don't feel like gets talked about a lot. And I'm gonna have to do a separate video on this because I would like to address this in a separate video. But there are ways to carry different gear items that still provide like the insulation or the comfort and protection that you would want. But really it just comes down to being able to find ways to cool yourself. So oftentimes, like on the trail, you might take a handkerchief and just put that in some water and put it around your neck so that as you're hiking, you're cooling off with the evaporation that's happening and the wind blowing across that. And you may dunk your t-shirt in there, or around camp, like trying to find some kind of shade for you to be able to put your camp. And once it's hot, it's unlike winter where you can just put more layers on. You can only take so much clothing off. And aside from like totally stripping down naked and then exposing yourself to really bad potential sunburns, it just becomes a point of, can you find ways to cool yourself down by going for a swim in a lake or in sitting in a stream or just laying in a hammock in the shade? I mean, there's a lot of different things, and I'll try to put together a different video for this that helps address this in a more constructive format than just answering a quick question. Goat Lord Hiking asks, are neoprene socks worth it? Gore-Tex is great until it fails. Always looking for better ways to keep my feet dry. I don't know that I am the right person to ask this question, because when I am down in Utah's desert, almost all the time it involves some kind of walking through water and with anticipation at some point to get my feet wet. So I very rarely hike on trails where I am like strictly trying to avoid in every way possible to not cross a stream and get my feet wet. Now, when I go up into the mountains in the high altitude areas, like in the Uinta Mountains here in Utah, I do avoid water crossings and getting my feet wet. But as far as like, if I feel like I'm gonna be in an area that I know I'm gonna have wet feet and it's not winter time or the water isn't gonna be freaking cold, then I just go with wet feet and I carry a second pair of shoes to have dry shoes at camp, whether that's sandals or if I need to carry like actual shoes, then that's what I do. And I don't bother with carrying neoprene socks or other like waterproof things because when you've got wet feet, it absolutely helps prevent blisters. It keeps your feet cool, and that's just what I do. So I don't have a lot of experience using neoprene socks. I've actually never owned a pair, and I don't try to wear like high top boots or things because if my feet are gonna get wet, I just go for it. Just get wet feet, and it's not that big of a deal. How do you deal with rodents and mice not getting everything chewed up when tarp camping? To be honest, I have not had a lot of issues with rodents being an issue when I am tarp camping or even tent camping. I just keep as much like food that is open and the smelly things away from my tent. And if I do sleep with my food, oftentimes I will double bag it so that it's containing the scent even more. But I've really not had an issue with rodents. Now, the other thing to that is, in every way possible, if it's not required to camp in specific campsites, then I try to camp in areas that other people don't camp in. And so I look for more off the beaten path kind of places, following all of the rules of leave no trace. And I do that because it's less likely for me to have a problem with mice and rodents because those animals are not accustomed to somebody being there, and so they're not expecting for there to be food available to them. So that would be my suggestion for that. If I have a closed cell foam pad strapped to my backpack, how do I use the rain cover when it starts to rain? I can't find the answer anywhere. Help! It's a good question, and what I would suggest is, I don't have a closed cell foam pad here to show you. Other than my suggestion is to undo the accordion and flatten it out and shove it down against the back panel of your backpack. And by doing that, yes, it's going to reduce the amount of internal space in your pack, but it's not going to be this huge bulky thing on the outside. And so you can shove it down on the inside by flattening it out as much as possible. And that's going to be the best way if you are going to be using a pack cover to be able to get the pack cover over your pack all the way. Otherwise, I would suggest just ditching the pack cover and using a pack liner, whether that is like a trash compactor style bag or an actual pack liner that is made of like sil nylon or something. Get over the fact that if your pack gets wet, then you're carrying a little bit extra weight. Like, don't worry about that. Just worry about keeping the stuff on the inside of your pack dry. And so if it's not an option for you to flatten it out, shove it on the inside, then try a liner and just deal with things might get a little bit wet. But there you go, guys. That is Q&A number 4. Thank you for watching. I know this was a lengthy Q&A session, and if you made it to this point, kudos to you. Thanks for sticking around. If you're not subscribed to the channel, guys, please do subscribe and hit the bell notification to get notified when I post new videos. But I hope you have an awesome day. We'll catch you on the next video.